Hello, Internet. It's time for another Wednesday serial, and I want to usher in the new year by looking at some indie comics, and I'll get to all that mainstream DC Marvel stuff later in the week. But before I do that, first things first, I got a huge shout out from IMJ, the Inveterate Media Junkies, Jose Melendez and Inside Man. Their podcast, they shouted me out because they thought I shouted them out when I was really just taking a point that they made and referencing it. And they made a big deal in their latest podcast, pointing me out, which was awesome. That's just in the first 5 minutes, but you should check the rest of it out. It's an hour, but it's a good hour. So check that out. Link in the doobly-doo. Second up, my friend Dan, who is also an animator, I'll put a link in the doobly-doo to his stuff, drew me a very ill-proportioned Naruto. Just, BAM! Merry Christmas, indeed. Now, first up is a comic book I wanted to talk about actually last week, but I didn't get to it because there was, stuff. Anyways, that book is The Cape. And they have this big Lock and Key creator did it. Bull! It's based on a short story he did, and then someone else wrote it. Caramella, instead of Hill, who does Lock and Key, was the guy who actually wrote it. I don't know how that creative process works there, but whatever. And then the art by Howard, and then Daniel, who's the last name Daniel, not hit. They do a bang-up job, and this story is something that stands alone. It's a one-shot that's leading into something more later from IDW coming out later this year. And so far as I know, unrelated to the show of the same name. And it's a really interesting comic, an interesting take with if people have superpowers, and it's not so altruistic and it's not so noble that it's just unrelatable. And I just think if you're in and reading all the supernatural stuff, it's worth picking up this story just to get a different perspective on how people react to getting powers. It's something that makes sense and makes you kind of re-examine this whole supervillain superhero thing. Next up is a book that I've seen none of the reviews that I normally watch talk about. I just happened to catch it with an ad in the back of another comic I was reading. And that comic is printed by Image. It is Ian Churchill's Marine Man. Dear God, this is terrible. I mean, I shouldn't have walked out of the store without knowing this was terrible. First page is, I could show you, but it's just text over water, and there's ships here, kind of. You can't even know which one's really. Then you find out there's a marine biologist, and he's this two-dimensional character, and there's all these people come up to him. I'm your biggest fan. He's just this muscly blonde guy, no powers, which is fine. Not every comic needs to be about superheroes, but he's just a marine biologist with really good looks and no personality, none whatsoever, nor does anyone else in this comic have a personality. Some of them have breasts, though. That seems to be what intrigues people to them. And in this world I understand, because there's nothing else to look for. Also, what made this comic suck, there's no conflict. If you're going to tell a story, people, the first thing you need to address is, what is the conflict? What does our point of view character, I don't want to use the word hero because that can draw out stories in people's minds that are from the other end where someone needs to do something bad, but there needs to be a conflict that they need to resolve to get past. It can be something small, it can be something big, but you can't just throw a camera on someone and expect entertainment to happen. Oh, and I know what you're going to say. Reality TV. No, that is edited to show conflicts in everyday life that arise and kind of create a narrative from it. This doesn't even go that far. It's worse for storytelling than reality television. That's how bad this comic is. Then last for this video, I want to talk about Nick Spencer's new work. You all know Nick Spencer. He does those crazy things for Image that are all the rage right now. Forgetless, Morning Glories, what have you. This time, Infinite Vacation. Kind of taken an old sci-fi idea of people who can go into some alternate reality for a vacation, except in this case, it's the idea that you can relive moments of your life or do something completely drastic. And he also ties in the whole app idea, so you can buy these vacations off your phone and then experience them, which is really similar to another story that was done years ago from what I heard, but it seems to be pulling together. It doesn't feel as strong as some of the other stuff right now, but I do have a little faith that it's going to come together. There's so much setting up the premise here and kind of some of the greater ideals that I think the story is going to play out more next issue, so I'm willing to give it a little more, but I mean, there's already great conflict. There's these characters who absolutely refuse to use this alternate reality whatchamadoodle. And apparently a lot of it's for religious reasons. I imagine a lot of people want to do it because they want to live life, and there will be some great moral about choices that we make there. But my moral for this video is go pick up the cape and read it. I want to hear what people think about it. I want to know what you think after reading it. Tell me your thoughts about it. Now! But I'll catch you guys soon with another comic review. Peace, love, and a pint.